But certainly it was a debate seen around the world. And on the LegacyRetirementGroup.com phone line, I know it was a late night for him, but we're glad that he could do a quick turnaround and come on with us this morning. He's leading the polls right now for the U.S. Senate candidate, Mike Gibbons, who's with us right now. Mike, good morning, sir.
Good morning. How you doing, Brian?
Hey, pretty good. So Friday was, can I just say, Mike, Friday was crazy. Was it crazy for you?
Yes, it was. It was just kind of the latest episode of the Josh Mandel show. He does this on a regular basis, you know.
Well,
and I guess I didn't expect to be assaulted on stage, but his usual clown act goes on, whenever he feels like he needs attention.
Sure.
And he's increasingly frustrated. He's never lost a primary before, and he's about to, and it's frustrating him greatly.
Now, Mike, even your ads portray you, and knowing your history, knowing you're, a very successful guy, financially, multimillionaire, but also a fighter, too. And we see that from the ads. And with Mandel knowing that you're in the lead, I didn't know this was going to happen. It sounds like you already did. But yeah, I knew you were probably going to be a target just because you're leading in the polls.
Right.
I guess
right.
I would have never thought what I saw Friday. Were you expecting something like that?
No, it was. I actually, a lot of people think that know far more about politics than I do, and more about Josh Mandel. You study him over a period of years.
Mm-hmm.
This was probably planned. He's kind of an actor. He's a guy that has lots of slogans, and that's what he talks about. And he took offense at some mysterious whatever. My whole point is, can we keep sending people to Washington whose only experience is running for office, and in his case, not one moment in the private sector. He has never had a job in the private sector. Now he kind of misshapes that as an attack on his career as a Marine, and he brings up his career as a Marine literally every time he gets a chance. And by the way, my son is a Navy pilot.
Yeah.
I honor and respect service for this country. I was never in the military. I wish I would have been. It was never part of my family culture. My dad was a wrestling coach and a teacher, and our family is about sports. And you need somebody in your family to kind of make that part of your culture. I never had it, and I think when I mention my son, largely he's responsible for me even thinking about doing something like this. His joining the military and seeing what he's doing for our country, really kind of embarrassed me that I had never done anything. And I just don't think we can entrust the nation's future to people like Josh Mandel.
Sure. U.S. Senate candidate Mike Gibbons is with us. Well, Mike, look, on a guy-to-guy note, you're not alone. Financially, clearly, I'm not as accessible as you are, but I will say that, one of my biggest regrets is just, not serving in our military. But let's get to that. Yeah. I remember on Friday that, we brought up Ukraine. That was one of the topics. And you had talked about, your son being in the Navy. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And meanwhile, with this altercation that happened on stage, it all started with China, with the China topic.
Right.
And for those that weren't there, you got up. It was your turn to talk, by the way. Josh was already done. And you said, right, you may not understand this. And he says, I do. And you have never been in the private sector in your whole life. And of course, he shoots up, and starts, I imagine he was less than a half a foot away from you. But 2 tours in Iraq, don't tell me I haven't worked. But now you have this group of veterans who are upset with you saying that. And I think they sent you a letter, didn't they?
Well, he has a number of veterans. I have a similar group of veterans they're absolutely embarrassed of him. And more veterans have to be embarrassed than this false outrage at because whether the veterans like it or Josh likes it, being a veteran does not qualify you as having worked in the private sector unless you've actually done it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the reality is, and the truth is that Josh has never had a job in the private sector. between elections, I don't know what he did. He lived off his campaign funds. He dropped out in 2018. He lost in 2012, and he served as treasurer, which was a period of service that was fraught with scandal and corruption, and now he wants to recast himself as a potential U.S. senator. And frankly, that's why I'm running.
U.S. Senate candidate Mike Gibbons is with us. Well, Mike, let's touch on that too, because I know I've had a few people say, and we've talked about this. You're clearly very successful, but I've had people say, and you'll see it online too. Why would a successfully, rich guy want to serve in the U.S. Senate at this point in his life? It's almost like they don't believe that you want to be there for them. What do you tell them?
Well, it was a long, hard decision, and frankly, I started with the idea. I went to visit Pensacola with my wife, and I was embarrassed in a sense. My son is now risking his life every day. He just was put on deployment. We went to visit him less than a week ago, and I walked down there. I said, I'm going to go and do something for this great country. When I started out with nothing. Yeah. Where else in the world could I have achieved what I've achieved other than living in this great country? And my wife just said, "Calm down, Mike, calm down." And I went and interviewed with the Trump administration, and I could not figure out a way to not do tremendous damage to my partners. Yeah. In various businesses that I have, because they wanted me to liquidate everything like in 90 days, and when a firm we've spent 30 plus years turning into one of the best known middle market investment banks in America, they wanted me to change the name of the firm. Wow. I couldn't do it. And then I had a meeting with a number of CEOs in Cleveland, and met with Sherrod Brown. And frankly, Sherrod Brown is delusional. And it almost angered me. It's like, how could this man be representing Ohio? Mike, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah. No, and that was the final impetus to actually join the race.
Mike, real quick, I want to play a portion of the clip yesterday. Josh Mandel was on. I asked him if he had any regrets about his behavior on Friday. He said this, I think.
Listen, I'm a fighter, Brandon.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to apologize for fighting, especially when it comes to standing up for our veterans and our military. And listen, I don't care if I'm standing up to Republican Party bosses, Democrat Party bosses, the media. I'm just unafraid. And the reality is that one of the main ways we got into this mess in the first place is that we have all these Republicans who go to Washington and they become wimps.
So, Mike, your thoughts on that comment from Mandel yesterday, and do you have any regrets from what happened Friday?
Well, I have a regret for Josh Mandel. He made a complete idiot of himself. Nobody was attacking his service in the Marines. It was absolutely, it's made up. He's an entirely made up person. He shifts with whatever the wind tells him he should say. That's what he does, and he's a very desperate young man. And I don't know if it's his inexperience or youth or maybe he's just unhinged. But I never expected to have somebody literally. And you said 6 inches. It wasn't 6 inches. He literally pushed his chest into mine.
Yeah, he did.
And he says he's a fighter. You have no reason to know my background, but
nope.
I don't back down from a fight. Now my wife was sitting there, and she was like, she said, "Michael, I was sitting there saying literally loud enough for the person next to me. I was saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it." And because unfortunately, years ago, she saw me in that situation before.
Sure.
It didn't end like that.
But no, I hear you, Mike. You had to have laughed when the short little guy, aka me, came in the middle of you. I mean, I'm sure you thought, "Well, what's this? What's this little guy going to do?"
Well, I think think about, you're running for the U.S. Senate,
Yeah.
a pretty important position, and all of a sudden you're standing in front of 350 or how many people were there?
Yeah, 600
thinking,
plus. Yeah.
Okay, 600 plus. What do you do if some nutcase takes a swing at you on stage?
Yeah.
And I was trying to think. I was kind of looking around, and he pushed his chest into mine, and having spent a good bit of time on the wrestling mat, I said, "Boy, Josh, you just set me up for a lateral drop, and you're not going to like it if it happens." But I wouldn't have done that unless he would have taken a swing.
Right.
And he didn't take a swing, but virtually everybody I know said, Mike, it looked like he was going to take a swing. It was feigned outrage. It was planned, and he's an actor. He's not a leader. He's an actor, and as far as his fight goes, that's what he wants to portray himself as. And fighting for this position is not, a physical test. If he wants to do that, we can handle that after the election. I'll be happy to meet with him, and we can handle that. But that's not what I'm going to participate in.
I do, Mike. I do think that could make a lot of money. I do. Just
we can do it on
Mike.
We'll go in the octagon. Yeah, it's fun.
Mike Gibbons, candidate for the U.S. Senate, now leading in the polls. Mike, thanks for your time. Stop by the studio the next time you're in town.
I will. Thank you, Brian.
All right, take care. It's 8:49.